Piles of documents found in a deserted official building in Libya may turn into an invaluable treasury for victims of the Gaddafi regime, but may prove an embarrassment for the American and British governments. The American-based group Human Rights Watch says it has found documents showing in detail how the American CIA sent terrorism suspects to Libya for interrogation under a program known as rendition. Peter Buchert, a spokesman for Human Rights Watch, saw the documents.
We quickly found documents relating to CIA renditions to Libya, including the rendition of who is now the head of the Tripoli Military Council, Abdel Hakim Belhaj. He was rendered by the CIA. He was captured, abducted, together with his pregnant wife, and flown on the so-called black flight to Tripoli for his interrogation. The CIA rendered 8 or 9 individuals according to these files. And it wasn't just abducting suspected Islamic militants and handing them over to the Libyan intelligence. The CIA also sent the questions they wanted Libyan intelligence to ask. And from the files, it's very clear that they were present in some of the interrogations themselves.
Peter Buchert said the documents called into question the operations of both the American and British intelligence services.
The CIA has always denied the extent of the program, so this is just further confirmation and quite embarrassing to both the CIA and MI6 to have their very cozy relationship with Musa Kusa, a man who has a lot of blood on his hand, out there in public. The documents we found start off their faxes saying, "Dear Musa, thanks for the oranges you sent us. They were delicious." Those kind of cozy relationship with the intelligence service known for torturing and disappearing people.
Peter Buchert of Human Rights Watch there. But how much of a surprise are these documents in view of the fact that Colonel Gaddafi's regime has been openly collaborating with Western powers since 2004? I put the question to Nabila Ramdani, a London-based journalist specializing in North Africa.
It was, in fact, an open secret that Gaddafi was working hand-in-hand with the CIA in the so-called war on terror to fight international terrorism. But it is true that the disclosure of the revelations that Libya was used as a base for the US rendition program is absolutely chilling. And the rendition program is, of course, illegal. And these revelations, come as a further example that America is, in fact, quite comfortable with the practice of torture by proxy.
There is an irony, isn't there, that one of the suspects handed over by Americans to the Gaddafi regime under this rendition scheme, Abdel Hakim Belhaj, he's now become a leader of the Libyan insurrection, which is now fully supported by the USA. How do you see the current NATO intervention in Libya in the light of these new developments?
Well, absolutely, and it's fair to say that the Islamist forces in Libya are, in fact, the ones who are doing most of the fighting, to the point that they would like to have a stake in, the future Libya, and they have, in fact, managed to get Sharia law inscribed in the draft constitution of the National Transitional Council. And indeed, these new revelations give another dimension altogether to the Libya conflict. The military adventure is, of course, to be put in the context of the Arab Spring, which is all about the end of dictatorships, the promotion of democracy and human rights. But the damning revelations are a huge embarrassment to the US, and they testify to the fact that the military intervention was not driven by humanitarian instincts, but by the rush for oil and natural gas.
How much of an embarrassment or a blow is it for Tony Blair in Britain and George W. Bush in the US? They were in power at the time of these rendition programs.
Well, Tony Blair had a great deal to do with Gaddafi's softening. He persuaded him to give up his nuclear weapons programs, and he invited him to welcome Anglo-Saxon investment in Libya. But I can't see anything illegal in that. What is blatantly illegal is that MI6 agents were involved in helping the Gaddafi regime to identify political dissidents based in the UK and to pass on information about those dissidents to the Gaddafi regime. So that is quite shocking.
Now, the former head of Libya's external security organization, who Western intelligence services are said to have collaborated with, the former head is Musa Kusa, who defected to Britain months ago and who is also believed to be living now somewhere in the Gulf. What are the implications of these findings for him?
Well, this comes as a huge embarrassment for the UK government and indeed for Cameron's government. Musa Kusa was, of course, Gaddafi's former foreign minister who defected early on when the uprising started in Libya. This is a man who has an awful lot of blood on his hands, and yet he was released by the British authorities and hence will never be held accountable for the crimes that he committed on the behalf of the Gaddafi regime. And instead, as you said, he was able to leave the country and he's believed to be in the Gulf safe and sound.
North Africa analyst Nabila Ramdani.